Pandeyam Shiguro Shiyata Parakamalam Shigurun Vaishnavamscha Shirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivashakam Vidamscha Om Jnana Timaranda Sha Gyanajana Shalakya Chakshurun Milidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Garganara Sesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Vatanugam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noi Bija Pradam Devam Divyatanam Suchanda Baranam Balarka Jailanshitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Baranam Vairagya Vidyambudim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubharam Mareka Sharanam Nyashishwara Shridaram Vanchakopatarubhyasya Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Adi-lila chapter 5, the glories of Lord Nityananda Balaram. I'll start with verse number 71. Yashaika nishvasita kalamatavalamya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanata Vishnur mahan sa iha yasha kala vishesho govindamadi parusham tamaham bhajami. The Brahmas and other lords of the mundane worlds appear from the pores of Mahavishnu and remain alive for the duration of his one exhalation. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda. Hey, I already had that done. Okay. Yashaika nishvasita kalamatavalamya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanataha Vishnur mahan sa iha yasha kala vishesho govindamadi parusham tamaham bhajami. The Brahmas and other lords of the mundane worlds appear from the pores of Mahavishnu and remain alive for the duration of his one exhalation. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom Mahavishnu is a portion of a plenary portion. The description of the Lord's creative energy is from the Brahma Samhita, this description, which Lord Brahma compiled after his personal realization. When Mahavishnu exhales, the spiritual seeds of the universes emanate from him in the form of molecular particles, like those that are visible 3 times the size of an atom, when sunlight is diffused through a small hole. In these days of atomic research, it will be a worthwhile engagement for atomic scientists to learn from this statement how the entire creation develops from the spiritual atoms emanating from the body of the Lord. Kvaham tamom had aham ka charagni varbu samveshti tatandam gata sapta vitastikaya shvedrig vida viganitanda paranucharya Vatadva Roma Vivarasya Chate Mahitvam. Where am I, a small creature of 7 spans the measure of my own hand? I am enclosed in the universe composed of material nature, the total material energy, false ego, ether, air, water, and earth. And where is your glory? Unlimited universes pass through the pores of your body, just like particles of dust passing through the openings the opening of a window. Let's see here. I was just looking here.
No, just the list.
Anyway, when they talk about the span, let's see. Where am I? A small creature of 7 spans, the measure of my own hand. I think this says 7 spans from here to here. What?
Well, that's how they measure horses.
Yeah, but I don't care about horses. I'm talking about the span of your body. It's not going to be 7 times the span of your hand. It's 7 times from your elbow to your here. That's 7 of those. I forget what they called it, but. Huh?
I also remembered it like that.
Okay. When Lord Brahma, after having stolen all Krishna's calves and cowherd boys, returned and saw that the calves and boys were still roaming with Krishna, he offered this prayer. In his defeat, a conditioned soul, even one so great as Brahma, who manages the affairs of the entire universe, cannot compare to the personality of Godhead, for he can produce numberless universes simply by the spiritual rays emanating from the pores of his body. Material scientists should take lessons from the utterances of Sri Brahma regarding our insignificance in comparison to God. In these prayers of Brahma, there is much to learn for those who are falsely puffed up by the accumulation of power. Okay. Amshara Amshache Kala Taranam Govindara Pratimurti Sri Balaram. A part of a whole is called the Kala. Sri Balaram is the counterform of Lord Govinda. Okay. Tara Ek Shvarub Sri Maha-Sankarshan Taramsha Purusha Hoy Kalate Ganan. Balaram's own expansion is called Maha-Sankarshan, and his fragment, the Purusha, is counted as a kala, or a part of a plenary portion. So, let's see. So the idea here is, if we had to talk about the biggest conception of gigantic, right? Gigantic person would be Mahavishnu or Karanabdhishayi Vishnu. Karanabdhishayi Vishnu, entire universes. The universe. We have no conception of where the universe ends. And that universe is passing from the breathing, many universes are passing from the breathing, from his pores, from his breathing. Innumerable universes are coming out like that. So if an entire universe that we can't even measure is coming out, and there are innumerable universes, they're all coming out from Mahavishnu's breathing, you cannot begin to even consider, that there's no conception of size that will accommodate that. And that Mahavishnu, first expansion of Krishna is Baladev. Then you have, you have Maha-Sankarshan. Then you have the first Chaturvyuha, which is Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. And then there's a second quadruple expansion. And then from that Maha-Sankarshan is coming the first Purusha, which is Karanabdhishayi Vishnu or Mahavishnu, and he's called that enormous figure that, if we had to, I think somewhere it talks about, if you talk about vast size, it's Mahavishnu. If you talk about minuscule size, it's the Jiva. And that Mahavishnu, he's a Kala in the sense that he's a part of a whole is called a Kala. Sri Balaram is the counterform of Lord Govinda. So that Mahavishnu is a Kala. Balaram's own expansion is called Maha-Sankarshan, and his fragment, the Purusha, is counted as a Kala or a part of a plenary portion. So we're hearing the glories of Lord Nityananda Balaram, so giving us some idea of, And the word I couldn't remember yesterday is ontology. Ontology. Today I could remember. And Guru Maharaj describes, if you can, at the first beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when say almost, after the Mangala Charan, 14 Sanskrit verses establishing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, then 3 verses to the deities, which is, the deities of Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda, and then Radha Gopinath, to those 3 deities. Then we have Mangala Charan, then we're hearing, and it's ontological development. Your understanding, why are we talking about Mahavishnu? Because he's a Kala of coming from Balaram, coming from Krishna. He's, part of a part of a part, like that. And he's a Kala, and that Mahavishnu, this is related with Sri Nityananda Prabhu, because Nityananda Prabhu is non-different from Balaram. So a part of a part, is that it? Let's see what the Kala definition. Part of a part. It's called a Kala. And that Mahavishnu is a Kala. You can say a Kala, yes, a Kala of Balaram, yes, but a Kala also of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Because we're hearing about the glories of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. So what is the importance of this? This is ontological development. If you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, just the Lila, but you don't understand the ontology, you don't understand who they are, why is this significant, why is their behavior significant, why, which we heard earlier, why did Minakaitan Ramdas act like that? He's a disciple of Nityananda Prabhu. And he went to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's brother's house. And the priest, Gunanava Mishra, slighted him by not offering him proper respect. And then that Minakaitan Ramdas didn't take it very well. Why? Is he proud? No. He said, here's another Romaharshana Sutta who disrespected Balaram. And what did Balaram do? Balaram killed him with a blade of grass. So Minakaitan Ramdas, that the priest Gunanava Mishra didn't pay him proper attention. Why he was upset? Because he knew it was a slight towards Nityananda Prabhu. He didn't care about his own personal respect. He took it as a slight of Nityananda Prabhu. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj's brother defended the priest. And then what Krishnadas Kaviraj said was, Your logic is like accepting half of a hen. You accept Mahaprabhu, but you don't accept Nityananda Prabhu. And he chastised his brother. And what are the words used by Krishnadas Kaviraj? He says, after that, everything became gnashed or smashed for my brother. It all became like, that was not good for him. What's the word? It was like, almost for him, for his brother, it was like apocalyptical almost, you could say. His disrespect for Balaram. And then he said, because after he chastised his brother, then Nityananda Prabhu appeared to Krishnadas Kaviraj and Goswami in a dream and told him, now go to Vrindavan. And in the morning, like that, Krishnadas Kaviraj he left for Vrindavan. Then what is the sequence? He gets to Vrindavan, and then there is Raghunath Das Goswami, I believe it's like this, who's reciting the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Radhakund. Isn't it like that? And Krishnadas Kaviraj hears from him, is hearing from him. They're all hearing, everyone's hearing the glories of, Mahaprabhu's pastimes. They had already heard, everyone was familiar with Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat. But the emphasis of Chaitanya Bhagavat is on the early Leela of Mahaprabhu, his aspect of Gaur Narayan. But there's information, but not so much detail or information about after Mahaprabhu took sannyas and left Navadip. And the devotees are anxious to hear that. So, am I right about this sequence so far about being in Radhakund, hearing from Raghunath Das Goswami? Then, different persons like, what is it? It's the name of the pujari of the Govinda temple, is it Haridas Pandit or something? And they're all giving much respect to Krishnadas Kaviraj. And they already know Krishnadas Kaviraj is very mature and very, and they ask him, you have come here, you please compile Mahaprabhu's later pastimes. And that becomes Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Guru Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas of our line, they accept Chaitanya Charitamrita as the definitive description of Mahaprabhu's pastimes. To the point that there are references in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Krishnadas Kaviraj, defining the Leela and saying, well, this is correct and this is correct, but this is a little incorrect, but there's still some accommodation. It's like, not so, he's like saying, well, yes, Mahaprabhu, you can say he's Vishnu, he's Narayan. You can say that because when the whole is present, then all the expansions are present. But he's saying that the real person of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, covered with the Bhavakanti of Srimati Radharani. The heart and halo, as Govinda Maharaj describes it. So all these things it is, these things are presented so you can understand what is happening in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Guru Maharaj defines that as ontology. That is, if you can understand who the person is, what is the source, this is source information, then you can understand the Leela. And without this information, the Leela will be mysterious to you. So, and therefore, I'm reading this, and obviously, some, Srila Prabhupada's purports, some of them are they're very long. The one verse that starts out, Chintamani Prakara Sadmasu Kalpa Vriksha, the purport on that verse is 10 pages long. So I started reading that, and about through the 4th or 5th page, I kind of like shortened it a little bit. But we also have to understand, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada wants to express this detailed information because this is being presented to a Western audience. And even the Indians who come and visit us, they see our altar. They don't know what's going on. They see, Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nayanya. They see Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna, or in our case, Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari. They see these deities. They can understand who is Radha Krishna, but they have no idea, really, who is Mahaprabhu. They see the altar, and they're, unless they've had some contact with ISKCON, which many of them have, but otherwise they don't know what is the altar. Many times Indian families come here, Indians come here, they see the altar, they bow down, they're very, respectful, but they don't know who's on the altar. They can't tell you. So, and that's Indians. What to speak of Westerners? One time, one man in Mexico, I was there, and I started out, I'm going on a little bit, but I started out by telling him, he was there, and coincidentally, the Pope was visiting Mexico that week. The Pope was in southern Mexico, I think in Yucatan at the time. And so this man comes, I've never seen this man, and everyone's Christian, so I say, oh, the Pope is visiting. And I said, and he turns to me and he says, yes. Do you know what God calls the Pope? And then I said, no. And then he starts speaking very vituperatively, which is, then I can understand the way he spoke. He's not a Catholic. And then I can think, oh, he's not a Catholic. The way he's speaking, he's an evangelist. So then I know where Guru Maharaj, what he says that would be accommodating to evangelists. So I know that Guru Maharaj says, I'm not a form maker, I'm a form breaker. So I spoke about how we're not interested in worshiping form. We're interested in worshiping substance. And he could identify with that. Of course, I never invited him to go upstairs and see the deities. But he agreed with me and everything, and then, except I said to him, towards the end, I said, why do you speak so negatively about this other religion, which is the predominant religion in Mexico? Why do you speak negatively? Because we can go to the church and we can see many pious old ladies who are seated there who go every day of their life and are offering prayers and everything. So why do you speak so negatively? And then the man said, if I am seeing that there are persons and they are running headlong towards a precipice, or what do you say, a drop, you know, they're about to run over the side of a cliff, you know, do I not have the duty to shout out or say something? Don't I have that responsibility? And I said, all right, from that angle of vision, all right, I can accept it. I can accept it. But still, anyway, it just, still. But
where were you then?
I was in, I believe, in Guadalajara.
Okay.
And that man was obviously an evangelist. There aren't very many evangelists. But their conception is, I see the conception of the evangelist is, we all should worship God, but we don't need a guru. That's basically, I see how they present it. They say no man should come between you and God. Well, that's all right, but as example given, my glasses, they come between me and, say, Maharaj and Devashish. My glasses come between me and you because I need them in order to be able to see. Everything else is vague and cloudy without them. So without Guru, what can I see? I should not let some man come between me and God, me and the Lord. But that man is not a man. That man is my Gurudev. And my Gurudev enables me to see. And without my Gurudev, I would be blind. Completely blind. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I'm blind. Are my glasses coming between me and the deities? No. My glasses enable me to see something. So anyway, I say this color is Mahavishnu. He is the Mahapurush. He is the source of the other Purushas who is all-pervading. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu Sedui Jara Amsha Vishnu Vishwadam. It's interesting, I can use the word ontology every day of my life, and yesterday, if you would have said, if it would have been a quiz, you know, I would have failed. I couldn't remember all morning. I couldn't remember that word, ontology.
When you were asking me, I'm thinking, the Sanskrit word, I thought you were referring to some Sanskrit word. So I couldn't think what it was.
Okay. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu Sedui Jara Amsha Vishnu Vishwadam. Garbhodakashayi and Kshirodakashayi are both called Purushas. They are plenary portions of Karanabdhishayi Vishnu, the first Purusha, who is the abode of all the universes. The symptoms of the Purusha are described in the Lagu Bhagavatamrita. While describing the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the author has quoted from the Vishnu Puran, where it is said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Purushottama, Lord Krishna, who is always free from the contamination of the six material dualities, whose plenary expansion, Mahavishnu, glances over matter to create the cosmic manifestation, who expands himself in various transcendental forms, all of which are one and the same, who is the master of all living entities, who is always free and liberated from the contamination of material energy, and who, when he appears in this material world, seems one of us, although he has an eternally spiritual, blissful, transcendental form." In summarizing this statement, Rupa Goswami has concluded that the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who acts in cooperation with the material energy, is called the Purusha. And I feel Srila Prabhupada, also with some help from the editors, repeats many times the term Supreme Personality of Godhead, just to acquaint you, or acquaint especially a Western reader, with the idea that we're talking about unlimited and infinite divinity. And it's all coming from that original source. This is very hard, I think, for anyone except Gaudiya Vaishnavas to understand. Otherwise you get some vague conception of divinity, like a burning bush or what else, or persons who will tell you that it's outright blasphemy to even think of the personality of Godhead. That's blasphemy. What can you say? You say, okay, if you don't know, sit down. Vishnostu trini rupani purushakyani ato vidu ekam tu mahata shrastri dvitiyam tvanda samstitam tritiyam sarvabhutastam tani gyatva vimuchate. Vishnu has three forms called Purushas. The first, Mahavishnu, is the creator of the total material energy, Mahat. The second is Garbhodakashayi, who is situated within each universe. And the third is Kshirodakashayi, who lives in the heart of every living being. He who knows these three becomes liberated from the clutches of Maya. This verse appears in the Lagu Bhagavatamrita, where it has been quoted from the Sattvata Tantra. Jajapi kohiyetare Krishnera kalakori matsya karmadi avatare tiho avatari. Although Karanabdhishayi Vishnu is called a Kala of Lord Krishna, he is the source of Matsya, Kurma, and the other incarnations. Ete chamsa kala pumsa krishnas tus bhagavan swayam indrari vyakulam lokam mridayanti yuge yuge. All these incarnations of Godhead are either plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions of the Purusha avatars. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. In every age, he protects the world through his different features when the world is disturbed by the enemies of Indra. Se Purusha Shrishti Stiti Pralayera Karta Nana Avatara Kori Jagatera Bharta. That Purusha, Karanabdhishayi Vishnu, is the performer of creation, maintenance, and destruction. He manifests himself in many incarnations, for he is the maintainer of the world. Shristiyadi nimite je amshera abadan seta amshere kohe avataranam. That fragment of the Supreme Lord, known as the Mahapurush, appears for the purpose of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, and is called an incarnation. That fragment of the Supreme Lord, known as the Mahapurush, appears for the purpose of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, and is called an avatar. Adyavatara Mahapurusha Bhagavan Sarva Avatara Bij Sarva Shrayadam. That Mahapurusha is identical with the personality of Godhead. He is the original He is the original incarnation or avatar, the seed of all others. He's the seed of all other avatars and the shelter of everything. Adyo Vatara Purusha Parasya Kala Swabhava Sadasan Manascha Dvayam Vikaro Guna Indriyani Virat Swarat Stasnu Charishnu Bhumnaha. That Purusha Mahavishnu is the primary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Time, nature, Prakriti is cause and effect, the mind, the material elements, false ego, the modes of nature, the senses, the universal form, complete independence, and the moving and non-moving beings appear subsequently as his opulences. Describing the incarnations and their symptoms, the Laghu Bhagavatamrita has stated that when Lord Krishna descends to conduct the creative affairs of the material manifestation, he is an avatar or incarnation. The two categories of avatars are empowered devotees and Tad Ekatma Rupa, the Lord himself. An example of Tad Ekatma Rupa is Sesha, and an example of a devotee is Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna. But really, an example of is Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna. But we're hearing about the difference between of empowered devotees and Tadekatma Rupa, the Lord himself. Srila Baladeva Vibhushan has commented that the material cosmic manifestation is a partial kingdom of God where God must sometimes come to execute a specific function. The plenary portion of the Lord through whom Lord Krishna executes such actions is called Mahavishnu, who is the primal beginning of all incarnations. Inexperienced observers presume that the material energy provides both the cause and the elements of the cosmic manifestation, and that the living entities are the enjoyers of material nature. But the devotees of the Bhagavad school, which has scrutinizingly examined the entire situation, can understand that material nature can independently be neither the supplier of the material elements nor the cause of the material manifestation. Material nature gets the power to supply the material elements from the glance of the Supreme Purusha Mahavishnu, and when empowered by him, she is called the cause of the material manifestation. Both features of material nature as the cause of the material creation and as the source of its elements exist due to the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The various expansions of the Supreme Lord who act to empower the material energy are known as plenary expansions or incarnations. As illustrated by the analogy of many flames lit from one flame, all these plenary expansions and incarnations are as good as Vishnu himself. Nevertheless, because of their activities in controlling Maya, sometimes they are known as Mayika, or having a relationship with Maya. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So what? Here we have it. Jagrihe Purusham Rupam Bhagavan Mahad Adibi Sambhutam Shodasha Kalam Adoloka Sisrikshaya. In the beginning of the creation, the Lord expanded himself in the form of the Purusha incarnation, accompanied by all the ingredients of material creation. First, he created the 16 principal energies suitable for creation. This was for the purpose of manifesting the material universes. So, first he created the 16 principal energies suitable for creation. So you're asking, what are those 16 ingredients suitable for the suitable for creation? So I'll answer that. It's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. The commentary of Madhva on Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that the following 16 spiritual energies are present in this spiritual world: Shri, Bhu, Lila, Kanti, Kirti, Tushti, Gir, Pushti, Satya, Jnana, Jaya, Utkarshini, Bimala, Jogamaya, Pravi, Ishan, and Anugraha. So that's the answer.
I remember the Ramanuja Sampradaya worshipped Sri Bhu.
Yeah, this is in his commentary on the Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan has said that the above energies are also known as by 9 names: Bimala, Utkarshini, Jnana, Kriya, Yoga, Pravi, Satya, Ishan, and Anugraha. In the Bhagavat Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami, they are described as Shri, Pushti, Gir, Kanti, Kirti, Tushti, Ila, Jaya, Vidya, Maya, Samvit, Sandini, Ladini, Bhakti, Murti, Vimala, Joga, Pravi, Ishana, Anugraha, etc. All these energies act in different spheres of the Lord's supremacy. Maybe I shouldn't have asked that question. Jajapi Sarvashraya Tiho Tahate Samsar Antaratma Rupe Tiho Jagad Adar. Although the Lord is the shelter of everything, and although all the universes rest in Him, He, as the Supersoul, is also the support of everything. Prakriti Sahite Tara Ubaya Sambandha Tatapi Prakriti Sahana Hisparshaganda. Although he is thus connected with the material energy in 2 ways, he does not have the slightest contact with it. In the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Srila Rupa Goswami, commenting upon the Lord's transcendental position beyond the material qualities, says that Vishnu, as the controller and superintendent of material nature, has a connection with the material qualities. That connection is called yoga. However, the person who directs a prison is not also a prisoner. Similarly, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, directs or supervises the qualitative nature, he has no connection with the material modes of nature. The expansions of Lord Vishnu always retain their supremacy. They are never connected with the material qualities. One may argue that Mahavishnu cannot have any connection with the material qualities because if he were so connected, Srimad Bhagavatam would not state that material nature, ashamed of her thankless task of acting to induce the living entities to become averse to the Supreme Lord, remains behind the Lord in shyness. In answer to this argument, it may be said that the word guna means regulation. Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva are situated within this universe as the directors of the 3 modes, and their connection with the modes is known as yoga. This does not indicate, however, that these personalities are bound by the qualities of nature. Lord Vishnu specifically is always the controller of the 3 qualities. There is no question of his coming under their control. Although the causal and element supplying features exist in material nature by dint of the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord is never affected by glancing over the material qualities. By the will of the Supreme Lord, the different qualitative changes in the material world take place, but there is no possibility of material affection, change, or contamination for Lord Vishnu. And he glances over the material nature, and his glance is personified, or you could say his glance is Shambhu, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva comes from as the personification of the glance of Vishnu, and Lord Shiva takes care of everything. You can say it like that. Etad Ishanam Ishasha Prakritisto Pitadgunai Nayujate Sadatmastar Yata Buddhistadashraya. This is the opulence of the Lord. Although situated within the material nature, he is never affected by the modes of nature. Similarly, those who have surrendered to him and who have fixed their intelligence upon him are not influenced by the modes of nature. So, Daiviyesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durateya Mam Evaye Prapadyante Mayametam Tarantite. Nobody can overcome the illusory energy, Maya. Nobody. For instance, because that Maya is Daiviyesha, Daivi Prakriti. Maya is divinely empowered. You can't overcome Maya. But Daiviyesha Gunamayi Maya Duratya Mam Eva Ye Prapadyante. But if you surrender to the Lord, very easily you can overcome the material energy. With that surrender, Maya will release you. But there's a famous verse by Lincoln. He said, you can fool all of the people some of the time, and some of the people all of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. That's his statement. But when it comes to Maya, he's wrong. Maya can fool all of the people all of the time. Yeah. And there was one famous science fiction movie about how everybody was being offered a different vision of reality than what's really taking place. But what's really taking place was where everybody was being used as basically food, and they couldn't see that because an illusion was cast over them. But that is not our philosophy. Their philosophy is, that the answer is reality the ugly. But our vision is search for Sri Krishna, reality the beautiful. That what you're experiencing now may seem at times beautiful. You've encountered some other living entity and you're completely enamored. You're completely enamored by this other person. And no, it starts out like that. But so, and I gave one example. I repeated this so many times. Don't take my offense, but one sannyasi gave an example, and he told the story of how his mother visited to India, and he was there, and he took his mother to see the Taj Mahal. And the Taj Mahal, he said, is basically just a mausoleum, and it's built by a king in memory of his wife. And then he went on to say, but in this world there is no love, there is only lust and only illusion, like that. And he said like that. That was, in other words, explaining that here's the Taj Mahal, a great monument built to a false conception of love, to illusion, that only lust exists in this world. But it is hard to understand that example because, all right, that's what you're coming. But what about your relationship with your mother? You took her to the Taj Mahal as a statement of love for her. You wouldn't say that your relationship with your mother, there's no love, it's only lust. We don't normally think of our relationship with our mother as being that of lust. So that is what I would say is, to me, the contradiction in his statement. And I would say, yes, there's some reflection of love that we see in this world, the example given, just like in a gem, you can see some reflection of sunlight, right? Someone has a ring they can see. In that gem, a reflection of sunlight. So in this world, there's some reflection of love. And that, of course, is original love existing, given by the Lord for the living entities. Oh, Dhanabad. Divya Shakti Didi Ki Jai.
Divya Purushottam and Madhurima. Purushottam Prabhu.
Purushottama and Madhurima. So I would say we can see love. We can see examples of love in this world. For instance, between a mother and her child, we could say there's an example of love. Or between the son and his mother, he wants to take her to see the Taj Mahal. Or we can also say we can see some beauty within nature. Here we're living, and Govinda Maharaj, when he was here, he loved to see the deer come down the hill and go and take there's a compost pile, and the deer come down and eat at that compost pile. There's many living entities that are taking prasadam here. Deer, rabbits, coyotes, rats, birds, squirrels, I'm sure ants. So many living entities are taking prasadam here. Well, Govinda Maharaj liked to see the deer come down the hills, and he said it reminded him of Vrindavan. That's his special vision. But Govinda Maharaj be reminded of Vrindavan when he was on Singapore Airlines. Because the stewardesses don't lean over people like on American Airlines. They don't lean over you and ask you what you want. The stewardesses on Singapore Airlines would kneel down and talk to the person face to face, on the same level as them, which is more graceful. And Govinda Maharaj said by that gracefulness reminded him of, the verses from Brahma Samhita, or every, describing beauty of gracefulness. So anyway, that's Govinda Maharaj's vision. So we can see within this world, we can see reflections of love, beauty, or as Guru Maharaj would say, love, beauty, charm, reflections of that. Love, beauty, charm, mercy, what else? Affection. That's all coming, that's our conception of reality. Love, beauty, charm, affection, grace, mercy, ecstasy, all these things are contained within. That's really what all contained within divinity. And in this world, some reflections of that. So anyway, it's 9 o'clock. I've come to the end of my allotted time. So now we'll sing Hari Harai. We'll welcome our visitors or they're not really visitors, they're residents. This is Divya Shakti, Purushottama, is that correct?
Yeah.
And who is with you? Madhurima. Okay. And did you drive or fly?
We drove yesterday. Got in last night.
You drove. You can come in less than 12 hours.
Pretty much, yeah. Right about that.
What's that one? What's that pass? Something pass for the people?
Donner Pass?
Donner Pass, yeah. Is that were those people coming that kind of route?
They must have, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Donner's Pass. And somehow or other, in those days, they didn't make it without being so hungry they wound up eating each other.
They did it in the wintertime, right?
Yeah,
By the winter, yeah.
they did in the winter time, yeah.
Not a good plan.
we were telling the story to Madhurima, she couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Different times. Like there's a town down the coast from us, which is called, what's it called? Where, Sarvabhavan and who was in the printing press with him?
Navadvip?
Navadvip. And where's he live? Atascadero. Atascadero. Beautiful name of a town. Atascadero. What does Atascadero mean, Maharaj?
Well, it's a lot of mud and
Mud hole.
you cannot put your car there because it's going to
It's a mud hole.
sink. Mud hole,
Yeah, that's what the name, Atascadero, sounds so nice, and it literally means mud hole. Probably was where, wagon wheels got caught there and stuck in the mud. So they called that place Atascadero now.
And figuratively goes also into that line for other things.
All right, so now we'll sing Hari Haraya. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra.
Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Rupa Sanatam Bhatta Raghuna. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Rasa Raghuna. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jai Te Vignana Shabishta Puran. H.I. Gosai Jarmui Taradan. Dasavar Padarenu Mora Panchagram. Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame Janame More Abhilash. Nishai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabad Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pare Manjai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Korea Hare Nam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamada Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare
Varya Stottara Saptasi Srimad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Maharaj ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharia Varya Stottara Saptasi Srimad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharia Varya Stottara Saptasi Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharia Varya Stottara Saptasi Srimad Srila Bhakti Rata Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jaya Sapari Karasi Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Jiu ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Bhagavan Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Gaura Kshirodakashayi Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Sachitananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Sri Jagannatha Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga ki Jai Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai Vainamacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinata Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Gri Govardhana ki Jai Sri Balabhadra Subhadra Jagannath Jiu ki Jai Sri Akarmat Raja Sri Chaitanya Mat ki Jai Sri Khadija Sakha Mat ki Jai Sri Navadvip Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki Jai Sri Vishwa Vyapitariya Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki Jai Sri Sokel Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ashram Sevasram ki Jai Sri San Jose Sevasram ki Jai Jai Sri Govinda Mela ki Jai Sri Govinda Mela ki Jai Sri Govinda Mela Sokel California ki Jai Jai Sri His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai Jai Sri Pad Bhakti Tilak Niriha Maharaj ki Jai Jai Sri Pad Bhakti Vigraha Nyasi Maharaj ki Jai Jai Devashis Prabhu ki Jai Sri Gauda Mandal, Sri Braja Mandal, Sri Chetra Mandal ki Jai Sri Ganga Mai, Jamuna Mai ki Jai Sri Mati Tulasi Maharani ki Jai Sri Bhakti Devi ki Jai Sri Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Toda la gloria a los devotos reunidos ki Jai Toda la gloria a todos los devotos del mundo ki Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharia Astadhara Sadashri Srimad Srila Bhakti Kushamashram Maharaj ki Jai Srila Ashram Maharaj ki Jai Sri Devashish Prabhu ki Jai Sri Bhakti Vigrahanyasi Maharaj Jai
Kikul Sevakan ki Jai Vyapamekam Kikul ki Jai
Divya Shakti Didi ki
Jai I forgot